Morning all. I wanted to talk about a very interesting position that occurred in the last few weeks. There was a lot of discussion on this position. Something occurred in the post-mortem analysis of a blitz game against a player nicknamed Superstructure, who was high rated at the time on the 5-minute auto pairing. He was playing white, 2-2-8-1, and I was 2-1-2-3 at the time. Here, I just played the move Bishop B7, and I thought the worst was over, because it seems like the main entry points is secured by the bishop, or here, these entry points seem secure. But something amazing in post-mortem analysis was shown. I couldn't believe it, and nor could other people watching the video. A move was suggested for white here, which was incredible. And I wanted to use the opportunity not just to talk about this specific tactic, but how computers will inevitably always beat humans. It started in the 1980s, 1990s. They're always strong tactically. And at first, the brute force approach of computers sometimes failed because although they won material, for example, sometimes, at the end of it, their king safety might have been compromised, or there might have been passed pawns. And to cure this horizon effect, not being able to see over the horizon, basically just adding faster hardware was starting to cure it, as well as improving the heuristics used to evaluate positions. And now, with hardware and technology advances, even a cursory glance with an engine when you play a blitz game will reveal phenomenal tactical resources. If we were transported back to the 1980s, you need probably a mainframe to get the same thing so quickly. These variations you can get from like an i5 or an i7 processor now with a strong engine. So here, phenomenal tactical resource was shown here, which is to be seen to be believed. But as an illustration of what is this, the power of brute force, a recent cafe conversation with my brother Nick, he was going on about this magician who basically he was predicting some future for someone, and that's what we were shown, that they would do this, and this would happen, and all the events actually transpired. So was it because the magician was actually seeing into the future? Well, the actual basis of the trick was actually the magician actually had the same conversation with thousands of different people, and actually took the one which actually worked out, where the outcomes actually came true. And because we were only shown the one where it actually worked, not the thousands which didn't, we were really impressed. And it's the same in a way with brute force, because when an engine looks at a position, they're looking at every single candidate move, doesn't matter how ridiculous it is. And indeed here, there seems to be an absolutely ridiculous, beyond insignificance, as far as the human radar, for a lot of people, they wouldn't go too far into this variation. I wonder if you can guess here what is mentioned by my Stockfish as the strongest move. I'm talking depth 29. So Stockfish recommends a move which shocked me completely, and it shattered the illusions that black's position is kind of solid. When we talk about solid, when humans talk about the term solid, we mean without clear weaknesses. And it seems just because the entry points here are guarded and the king seems safe enough that it's solid, but actually it's not really that solid. If you have high tactical precision, black's position can apparently be blown away here. If I gave you 5 seconds to pause the video, or 10 seconds to pause the video, what would you consider as a totally outrageous but potentially useful tactical move here? So 10 seconds starting from now. Okay, well, my IM opponent played a4, and it turned out later I was able to actually win an endgame later, because I managed to munch on a4 later after the queens came off later, and it was a great endgame position to have. I'll just quickly just show you the game, just flick through the moves to show you that the queens came off at some point, and actually a4 was a liability, and then you know, I was winning the end game, so it was a nice win in the end. Okay, so that's the game continuation with a4. So an IM played the move a4 here, but Stockfish, if you had to play Stockfish, and which I generally avoid playing engines even for training. It used to be totally demoralising, totally. Stockfish comes up with the move rook c6, and this is like, you know, the magic trick. The engine's sifted through loads and loads of what we consider junk, and it turns out actually this seemingly junk move initially is actually pretty brilliant. Some other people's engines are actually mentioning bishop g7 as well. Maybe we could check that out in a bit. So what is going on with rook c6? Well, let's start with taking the rook. Here, the idea is not to play this. That is okay for black after bishop c8. The idea is actually created a slight weakness of the last move, which the engine's calculated, for rook e6, which now forks the queen and the bishop. So this is the power of brute force, and why the horizon effect disappeared around 1980. Around, you know, for most people playing computers, the horizon effect where you could trick them into winning material. Here, it's beyond the point of repair, it seems now. What does black actually do in this position? After queen here, white has even better than taking the bishop. There's no emotional law to win material back from an engine point of view. It's trying to find always the top move in the position, and one of the top at a certain depth is to play h4. So queen d8, and you know, letting black off, keeping the bishop, but now d takes. And you see that both these bishops are kind of being opened up here, and also the queen's got, you know, potentially d5 as well. So rook takes d6 is the immediate top threat. C takes b7 is another. So it's a double attack on both bishops now, and black's position is really basically crumbling here. So say bishop c5, that's the suggestion. Now the queen's attacked, so actually though bishop d5 here not only defends that queen, but also now threatens rook e7, discovered check, and then bishop takes g7 will be mating. So for example, if the bishop moved, then this is a forced mate in 8. There's actually a quicker one with queen c3. So much for black being solid here. Say this move, then rook e8's pretty quick, pinning the rook. Queen takes g7. So black really, from a human point of view, might have felt solid, but actually it's a tissue, what my friend Kostas Karyonis sometimes expresses, a tissue of lies which are being exposed by the engine's brute force. That rook c6 is such a crushing move. If we look at this again, d takes c6, weakness of the last move, rook e6. I mean, these are mega tactics which the engine sees. I mean, where else could the queen have moved here? Queen h3, d takes c6 again, so hitting both bishops, and you know, bishop c5 is even like less effective than before. Bishop d5 here, and both bishops are pointing at the king, so not even bothering taking this guy. So say king h8, then carnage occurs. Bishop takes g7. For example, if taking here, check. Yeah, and black's like mate in 3 now. So say if king f7, rook d6, check. Queen e5 mating. So it's incredible, the brute force, how embarrassing it can be if you do a post-mortem of your games with an engine, but it's also sometimes just absolutely shocking what resources exist. And you might think, well, what about bishop takes? That's actually better than pawn takes. It doesn't weaken e6. So here d takes, so an exchange sacrifice. but white is now on this pawn hitting the rook. So, okay, what does black actually play here? If takes check, and this is still very, very good, for example, like this, rook e6. I mean, what does the exchange up or the exchange down mean from an engine point of view? It doesn't mean anything. It means maybe on the evaluation function, but it's going through millions of positions here, and he's working out that the exchange down doesn't mean anything at all here. White is just better. So say we'll take one of the moves which was white is better, bishop c1. And the best move here is c takes. Where else is the queen actually moving? Queen's kind of being run out of squares here. So say c takes. Then here bishop takes, b takes. Taking the rook, cashing out, taking the rook. Leaves white a bishop up, basically. Bishop up here. After bishop d5, white's a bishop up. So yeah, even taking with the bishop. So taking with the pawn is even worse because of rook e6. It's really exposing that black wasn't at all solid. And I think, you know, obviously in the openings especially, I think humans can leverage the opening, you know, openings. Their opening lines can be extended and qualified and made tactically more solid, you know, from an engine perspective. But here, yeah, it's just an absolutely crushing position. What can black do? g6, rook takes d6. It's just overwhelming here. There's gaping dark square weaknesses now. So c takes, bishop takes is a forced mate in 8 or something here. You get the idea. It's totally hopeless. So the position is really a tissue of lies, in inverted commas. So what can we say? we're spectators in the game of chess compared to engines, because we're not going to sift through all of this stuff like rook c6, especially in the blitz game usually. So rook c6 is a staggering resource. Just for those interested, I think there was a mention on other people's engines about bishop takes g7, but I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing rook c6 as the top move, plus 2.68. Rook ce2, strong. Bishop d4. I'm pretty sure someone mentioned, maybe they had the wrong position. No, this actually is losing. Sorry, I think they had the wrong position, or maybe it was later on. Okay, but rook c6, yeah, it's a shocking move, and just shows, you know, we're so far away now from engines, increasingly so, because basically as hardware progresses and evolves and the heuristics improve, engines will just see all this junk and they'll humiliate us even more and more every single year. It'll be even worse and worse than actually what you thought was solid, not at all solid. Okay, I hope this video was stimulating, thought-provoking. Comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.